to Sandown. This is the V8 Ultimate, race 1 of 3 this weekend. One 150-kilometre race this afternoon and 2 tomorrow. There is still so much to drive for. Very exciting times. Scape has the championship, but the battle is really on for second.
Yeah, it sure is. How close is it? 84 points now after the top 10 shootout between the top competitors. We'll get to that a bit later on. The Shell Helix starting grid tells the story. Mark Scape and Greg Murphy, Todd Kelly, 3 TWR Commodores in the top 3 spots. Well, boy, they're looking pretty dominant toward the end of the year. Marcus Ambrose, the best of the forwards. He's got a crook neck, though. Struggling with the sore neck there. Jason Bright and Russell Engel, Paul Radisich and Stephen Ellery in the top 8.
Very strong field here at Sandown. Glenn Seaton made the top 10. He was in 9th. Larry Perkins, Stephen Richards, David Bernard. Craig Lowndes, unfortunately, had a bit of a shocker in the top 15 shootout. He starts from 14. And Stephen Johnson did not make the top 15 cut this round.
Paul Whelan, Mark Larkham, Jason Bargwana and Garth Tander, the 2 Valvoline guys, round out the top 20. Boy, they're struggling here this weekend. Paul Romano and Tony Longhurst. Brad Jones in the Aussie Mail Ford, another one a bit further back than he'd like to be, and Jason Richards in the Team Kiwi machine.
We know that Jones can work his way through the field, though. Matthew White makes a return to the championship. He's in car 76, but starting a long way back in 30th position, and Thomas Mazera and his team had to work hard overnight to get that car ready for the racetrack today. A full grid of 32. Let's take you through the in-car cameras. Paul Radisich is the first one. Thanks to Shell Helix, we'll ride with the Rat at Sandown, and he goes well at this Victorian circuit.
Well, he certainly won here last year. With the Ford fans in a frenzy. He's struggling a little bit this year, though. He may get up to the top spot. Strathfield in-car camera with Russell Engel. He really wants to take second in this championship. 3 times the bridesmaid he'll be if he manages to achieve that feat.
The Kmart in-car camera for Greg Murphy, the king of Pukekohe, and he is still riding high on confidence and motivation, and that was such a thrill for him to be quickest in every single session over there.
Craig Lowndes at the wheel of the Batmobile. They're calling that funny steering wheel he's got in it. It's been one of the big features of the in-car cameras. A lot of questions asked about it. And he had a real problem in the top 15 shootout. Got it all wrong, and that's cost him a lot of track position for the start.
The VB in-car camera with the newly crowned champion Mark Scape. Boy, did he muscle the HRT Commodore around this 3.1-kilometre circuit in the top 15. Did a wonderful job, and that's why he starts from the #1 position. And the final in-car camera, Marcus Ambrose.
Carrying the Monroe in-car camera, Thomas Mazera, in fact, will have to start from pit lane. He had a crash in qualifying. As Lee said, the team had to work very hard to get it ready for the race. He didn't record a time, so he has to start from pit lane once the rest of the field's gone.
Weather conditions here today are absolutely perfect. I mean, earlier on the sun was out, but now the sun's gone in. It's good for the drivers now, Neil, isn't it?
It is good for the drivers, but this is going to be a tough event. I think that 1 hour around here is going to see these guys being very busy boys, but in particular when you add the second and third events, it's going to be a physically tough thing, as I mentioned in the opener.
Not everybody's as supremely fit as you, though, Neil, are they?
Give me a break.
Craig Lowndes slots into position 14, and considering where he was after normal qualifying, that's a long way back, and he has his work cut out. Can Ambrose win his first race of the year? He's won a round, but never won a race in the Shell Championship Series. He's hoping to do that for himself and Ford. And the Ford race analysis, 32 starters, 48 laps. It equates to 150 kilometres in the pit window for compulsory tyre change, the compulsory pit stop between laps 2 and 35. Who will come in early? Who will stay out?
That qualifying lap of Craig Lowndes was the worst in the world, and I couldn't believe it.
Get ready. We begin the final round of 2000.
But one of the things that happens down there, if you actually look from overhead, on the left-hand side of the road, the left lane disappears as you go into turn 1. What happens is everybody gets heavily committed to making a passing manoeuvre into the first corner, which is normal procedure, and all of a sudden they run out of road at the worst moment.
Down here at the Lansvale Smash Garage, guys, and Wally Story and the boys have been paying pretty close attention to the monitor 2 times this season, once at Winton, now here at Sandown. Gee, it's been tough for you.
It's very hard work, Greg, yeah. In a team where you're dog paddling, and quite frankly, here we've been dog paddling anyway, we haven't quite had enough pace. We really didn't need that. We're not short of work to do, and we are short of people to do it. But, I mean, if you play the game, you deserve what you get, I suppose. You know, that's part of it, isn't it?
Have you spoken to him? How is he?
I tried to ask him on the radio if he's all right, but I'd say he's unplugged it already. I saw him on the TV, though. He's out of the car and he's walking, so I'd say he's all right.
Hard luck, Wally. Thank you.
If you look at the back of Cam's helmet, it looked like he had a pretty much of a bang on the back right-hand side of his helmet as well. That would have been a real shake-up to be in there.
Here's another view again, and you see that there's 4 cars trying to battle for position there. Forbes on the inside, and then... ultimately, I think it was Larko that made the contact, but you have to look deeper into that, and you might even have to look further back. Another angle again from above. At least it was at low speed.
You may have noticed a shocker of a start by Larry Perkins. He was, after a good performance in the top 15, he was up there, but he dropped many places. He doesn't know what happened. The team asked him, what, did it stall? He said, I don't know, it just shut down, and he had to restart it 3 times before he could fire it up again.
There's the safety truck and the McConville car being loaded on to the flat tray, and that is the end of his day. And well, it's a little hard to judge if they'll be able to get that car ready for tomorrow. That's pretty major damage, though.
It looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
The things I think people at home may not comprehend is the massive amount of work that goes into building this car in the first place. And when it's damaged to that level, the amount of work of pulling it apart, fixing it and putting it back together again, it is an incredible amount of work.
When you look at the cages in the cars now, absolutely so integral. It's such an integral part of the stiffness of the complete rigidity of the car, isn't it?
Larkham in for repairs. You can see the team trying to hammer that front guard away from the tyre, and Larkham looks like he's back in the race.
So Larkham is back out there, the entire field behind the safety car. Greg Murphy leads the way after a fairly dynamic start. He beat Scaife off the line. Todd Kelly in the second Kmart car got away to a neat start as well. More from Sandown right after this. A very eventful start to the V8 Ultimate here at Sandown. You've just joined us. Cameron McConville rolled the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore. We've been under safety car just for a couple of laps, and we are getting ready to go racing. There is the remains of that Commodore that needs a lot of work.
There's a Falcon that needs a little bit more work too. You saw Larkham come in for some quick repairs to stay ahead of the safety car. Here comes the safety car now. So Larkham looks like he's going to go down a lap, I think.
We should go green this time round. The safety car has peeled off. We are back under green, and they begin the chase after Greg Murphy. Car 51, and Larkham has come back out on the circuit in front of the field. He's got some work to do to stay ahead of them. Boy.
Well done by Larkham's crew to get him back out, but here is the race lead. 2 Kmart Commodores. Greg Murphy continuing the form he showed in New Zealand. Blasts off from the rolling start. Mark Larkham back in second. Todd Kelly in third, and Marcus Ambrose, the best of the Fords, up in fourth.
Greg Murphy will try and get away here. The pit window is now open. They can pit to complete that compulsory pit stop for tyres as of now.
Fantastic sight as they come up the Ford straight. First time around, top speeds approaching 260 kilometres an hour. Yellow flags waving there. Hold the cars in as they come round. Take each one's marshal's posts. Warning the field that the track is now green and back to full racing.
After New Zealand, Murphy's certainly on a roll, isn't he? No doubt about that. He's pulled out quite a lot of ground, hasn't he?
He's on a bit of a charge too, because he's trying to close up. There is a chance that Murphy can finish second in the championship here.
Pit window's opening, guys, so just keep an eye out here. We might see Greg Murphy peel into pit lane. There's a lot of them that are queued up to do it, but interestingly, HRT, coming quite early, they've opted to stay out.
Ambrose is in, Greg Murphy is in. So the race leader peeled off to complete his compulsory stop. Neil, what about tyres in this situation? Pitting this early to go that distance, not a problem in terms of durability?
Well, these guys have shown great tyre durability throughout the course of the year. was held up badly by other cars coming into the lane there. A lot of people are opting for this early strategy. Ambrose has cleanly made his stop and integrated back into the group.
He's come out in front of Greg Murphy. That's the significant thing. The Stone Brothers team did a brilliant job in turning Marcus around, but that was because Murphy got held up a little bit coming out, and that's a big move by Marcus Ambrose.
Not only did he get held up there, but they also had a problem with the right front tyre. The wheel gun was dropped, so then they had to pick that up. The wheel nut then wouldn't come off. Lost valuable seconds, somewhere around the vicinity of 5 seconds in that pit stop.
So with those guys...
Looks like, I'm sorry.
Cold tyres doing that for Ambrose. Everybody's back out on cold tyres. To answer that question more accurately, Lee, it puts a lot of faith in that second set of tyres to run for almost an hour. One of the issues you have here at Sandown is that turn 4, which brings you onto the back straight, where Marcus is now, turn 10, the final turn, and probably out of Dandenong Road, turn 8. They both, all of those are second gear corners, all three of them, and very easy to develop wheel spin, very easy to burn up the right rear tyre. It will be a factor because this is a pretty long, hard pound around here.
So Marcus Ambrose is the first car on track that's made his compulsory stop. Here's Tom Kelly, teammate to Greg Murphy. So all the lead cars coming in very early, lap 6 of 48, so no one's playing a different strategy here. It's significant though that Mark Scaife's chosen to stay out there. I wonder if he's going to run a similar strategy to what we saw in race 2 in New Zealand, where he came in pretty much middle race distance to change to his second set.
First of the Shell cars, they've been serviced. That's Paul Radisich. Steve Johnson, who started 17th, has worked his way up to 8th. He is yet to pit. Probably 50% of the field have pitted already. Scaife is the race leader from Jason Bright. It's an HRT 1-2 at the moment.
I think you'll find that, you say these things and then you get shot down, that Scaife and Bright are likely to stay out there for a while now. Of course, if there is a safety car incident, then that's going to work against them. But if you can run on this set of tyres for a little longer, you're going to have another set that are younger for longer. They'll probably peel off and make a goose of it here.
Just had a word to team boss Jeff Grech. They're crunching the numbers down here at the moment just to back up what Neil was saying. Because they're concentrating on second in the championship for Jason, they may bring him in very shortly. The original plan for Mark was to leave him out as long as possible.
Yeah, and the good thing for Jason Bright and his cause in that scrap for second is Mark Scaife can assist him. Mark's got absolutely nothing to lose. The championship already wrapped up.
I need to stop and think about time and calendar here, but we've not run a long race on these tyres at this circuit. We've run longer races here in the past, 500k races, but not on this particular tyre. So we're sort of stepping into the unknown a little bit here in terms of tyre durability.
Speaking of tyres, let's not forget too, Barry, that this is the final race meeting on Bridgestones. Next year we go to Dunlops.
Yeah, there were a couple of the guys this morning that were saying after 5 or 6 laps, the edge has definitely gone off the tyres. So you'd have to say if you could get away with it without a safety car, it'd be the right thing to do to stay out and get a decent run out of the first set of tyres.
Everybody will have looked carefully into it and they'll have monitored this appropriately in the practice lead up to the race, but it is an issue. And I think the fact that this is a little bit longer than some of the other pit stop races we've had during the year, but not a full-blown endurance race, the strategy will be an issue here. Cars and their tyre degradation or otherwise will play out some sort of strategy game.
From Monroe, in-car camera, we ride with Pertec 4's Marcus Ambrose.
So everybody straight lines that little turn 7 curve there, and you can see that the wheel tracks go right across the grass. This is out of the Dandenong Road end of the circuit. That's the main grandstand up in the distance. Very bumpy on the approach here to 9. A little short squirt in second gear, and that brings them back onto the front straight. Busy circuit, not a lot of time to relax. It's very bumpy on the pit entry apron area there.
It's a great move by the Shell team to get Radisich out there, because these guys are a lot further down in the order, but they're the first 3 to have made their stops. Problems here for
Rick Kelly.
Having his first drive Holden Racing Team car. And the team will be celebrating the launch of the new HSV Coupe this week. And his drive in the car was seeing a little bit of a promotion for the product, but that's not the sort of start they wanted for young Rick.
Race leader Mark Scaife, and these positions aren't exactly accurate because some have pitted, some haven't. It's Scaife, Bright, Ingle, Seaton, Ellery, the top 5, Lowndes, Morris, Barguana, Jones, Tander. That's the top 10 at the moment.
And Scaife's got 3.2 seconds over Bright as we look at Glenn Seaton coming in to take his stop.
Fastest lap so far 1:12.16 to Scaife, so he's the fastest man on the circuit. He had the fastest lap on lap 6 as well, so he's punching out some pretty fast times at the moment.
And that is quick even compared to last year's Shell Championship round here.
Guys to keep your eyes on, though, Radicic, Ambrose and Murphy. They're 17th, 18th and 19th in the queue. There they are on shot now. But they're the first of the cars to have made their compulsory stops. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Scaife can pump out a useful enough lead to maintain the lead when he comes in for his compulsory stop.
And we'll keep our eyes on this because Greg Murphy, no doubt about it, has bridged the gap to Marcus Ambrose. Ambrose had quite a healthy margin over him when they came out of pit lane, but Greg has been working very hard and he's right on Radicic. That's Marcus Ambrose. Then Murphy's the third car in line.
Yellow flags being displayed up on that end of the circuit with the debris flag. That'll be for the Kelly car. You can see it. I think there in fact may have been some oil on the road there. There it is off on the right-hand side entering the back straight area.
So fantastic work by the Shell team to get their man up in that position. Paul Radicic, Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy. They're slowly moving up the order board as the other cars come in for their compulsory stops. Here comes Jason Bright, first of the Holden Racing Team cars to peel off.
Well, Bright comes in, guys, a crucial stop, as you mentioned. The clock ticking here. Robbie Starr on the front left, changing the tyres. See how he goes against the clock. 9 seconds gone already. That's a good stop by Bright.
What's the speed limit?
I wonder if Scaife started to strike some traffic. A 1:13.4 his most recent lap. He did a 12.1, and here comes Kelly.
And in the background, Marcus Ambrose, Radicic and Murphy's making an inside move, trying to get something on Marcus Ambrose here. Will it work? Yes, it will. Nice work there from Greg Murphy. Watch the switchback from Ambrose. The Pertec Ford side by side with the Kmart Commodore, but Murphy makes that move stick.
That Commodore does look good, doesn't it? There's no doubt about it. I mean, it turns in great. It sticks like glue. And
Terrific ride on the road, strong under brakes, good with the power down. I went and watched them on the final turn. I went and watched them yesterday at turn 1 as well. And all 4 of the TWR cars were just launching off, in particular the final turn, pretty strongly.
So you're effectively watching the battle for the lead here. And those 2 great stops by HRT and Kmart have got Jason Bright, Todd Kelly, Paul Radicic, Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy.
Sweaty time for Bright because he's on cold tyres there, Mark, and he was doing his darnest to defend.
Oh, heavy company through turn 1. Marcus Ambrose.
Oh dear, this doesn't look very friendly, does it?
Brad Jones, Paul Romano and Garth Tander. We had word from the ground that they were 3 abreast coming onto the main straight. Shell Helix Race Score updating the positions. Remember, when you see the blue box with P in it, and it indicates that they have performed their compulsory pit stop. None of the top 8 have done it as yet. None of the top 12 have done it as yet.
Tony Longhurst buying into that little scrap as well.
As Brad Jones goes to the outside as they crest the rise at the back straight.
Oh dear, that looks like it could end in tears.
Fantastic. Oh, that was a good move.
Just watching those guys battling away there. There's also a bit of a game of strategy going on. Just had a word to John Panozzo from the Valvoline Cummins race team. They're looking at bringing the guys in and around lap 15. Brad Jones, well, his brother Kim tells me around lap 16 to 20.
Brady just got outmanoeuvred as a result of tangling up there with Romano, with Tander going by him. It's interesting that you can actually pass on the outside at the second last turn 9, but it puts you in ideal position for the final corner, and Garth made that one work beautifully.
Bargwanna and Tander started 19th and 20th respectively, and they are now 5th and 6th respectively, but yet to pit.
Scaife's just done another 1:12.61. He's one of the fastest men on the track at the moment. Paul Romano gets back onto the track, or does he? After that scrap, he's trying to find his way around to pit lane.
Might have a flat tyre, actually.
Right front,
he's spent a lot of time off the road there, and he's actually limping back towards the pit entrance at the moment.
Oh, Murphy up the inside of Paul Radicic. So Murphy picks up a position. You see how quickly he closed on the Shell Ford. Took the opportunity to pass. So the Kmart Commodore is really on the march.
The margin first to second, that's Scaife to Ingall, 7.3 seconds. The curious thing now is to have a look and see what sort of lap times everybody's doing when they get into settle down mode. And who's the most strongly positioned of those that have pitted and just how far they are behind the leader. So we'll work on those numbers for you.
This Kmart Commodore is unbelievable at the moment.
Yeah.
The feeling in that team, they're riding high on confidence after a stunning round in New Zealand. So Murphy is on the move. Shell Helix race score as we grind on. 12 laps down of 48. We're at quarter race distance. A long way to go. This is the V8 Ultimate from Sandown. Stay with us on your home of motorsport, Network 10. You're watching the V8 Ultimate from Sandown on your home of Motorsport Network 10. There's some fantastic battles at different places around this 3-kilometre Sandown circuit. But the Kmart Commodores, they are powering on. Likewise, the